Welcome to the Increda-dental podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Flynn. Our goal is to make a positive impact in the dental field. I have been a dental assistant, a biller, an office manager, a scheduler, a hygienist, and a dental coach, which makes me your biggest fan. My husband was in the military and we traveled all over the United States. I had opportunities to work in many different practices, and I saw incredible practices and practices that had a lot of potential within them. Thank you for joining us. Let's dive into the podcast. Welcome to the Increda-dental podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Flynn. And before we start talking about goals, I want to let you know the second Friday of January is considered Quitter's Day. It's the day that most people who have made New Year's resolutions or goals have stopped working on them. And if you, as an office, have found that you guys have lost track of your goals, I want to teach you today positive ways to reinforce your goals and make them more meaningful to your team. So let's start out with how we usually go about it. Every new year, we aim for like 30% more growth in periodontal disease, or I'd like to have 50 new patients every month. But what if we focused on just 1% better each day? I want you to set the tone to have a meaningful improvement that lies in aligning the team, focusing on patients' health, not where we're focusing on more production, but on the patient's health. So what we've often find is that people are in healthcare because they like helping other people. And they do like the financial benefit, but they like helping other people. And too often we get stuck in production where we need to be providing more for our patients, but we're doing it from a place of counting instead of a place from health. So let's talk about how we can change this and make it more about the patient's health. Because when we're motivated by the patient's health, you get more buy-in from your team. People are more likely to be invested. We need to make sure that we put the patient's health first. And when we do this from that standpoint, we stand higher, and the team is more likely to stand behind you. We all want to be made a part of something more meaningful, of something more challenging, of something more rewarding. And by standing on the platform of preventative health, of giving our patients the best care possible, it puts us on that higher level and makes it so we're prouder of what we do and more excited about what we do. And when we do this, everyone wins, but especially the patient. So let's talk about crowns. Every office would say, yes, let's increase crown production. But let's take a step back and go into why. Because too often we get ahead of ourselves and say, yes, we should be increasing crown production, but we're not diving into the why. So teach your team, show them through photos, videos, real cases, the benefits of a crown. Show them that if you wait on a tooth that has a large filling in it and a crack going down it, that tooth may end up needing to be extracted. And if you have cases where it has happened, show them those pictures. Relate to them the cost of an implant and an extraction, what that fee is, and what the time cost is for the patient, and how being proactive will help the patient. I have seen, unfortunately, where the doctor leaves a room and the patient will turn to the assistant and say, I don't know why I need a crown. And the assistant will look at them and say, yeah, I don't know why you need a crown either. So we need to have our team educated and well-versed and be able to explain to patients easily why they benefit from getting this treatment done. Because in the long run, it's going to cost them more time and more money, and preventative health is much easier than reactive health. So make sure your team is aligned, that they understand. And this includes the front office too. The front office needs to know why we do this. Because if they don't, and the patient asks them questions and they don't understand the right verbiage or why it's important, the patient begins to think that maybe they're at the wrong place, or maybe it's not important that they get this done, or maybe the office isn't very educated or very well aligned. So you want to get everyone aligned clearly. Another one that we always are looking for ways to increase is the periodontal disease we're not trying to increase periodontal disease, but we're trying to increase the patients that we treat for periodontal disease. And this is something that we know that there is a huge link to the systemic body of what happens when people have active periodontal disease. We know that people who had periodontal disease that was active were 7 times more likely to be incubated because of COVID. and the Journal of Vascular Surgery, as well as Dentistry IQ, that the risk of stroke in participants with severe periodontal disease to moderate were 2.5 times more likely to suffer with a stroke. And this also relates to heart attacks. There are systemic conditions that relate to periodontal disease. So when we talk about taking care of a patient, we want to talk about their entire health. One that I love to talk about with patients is that respiratory conditions. If they have active infection in their mouth, they're breathing that into their lungs, and it's harder for them to get over pneumonia, bronchitis, if they complications of COPD, if they have asthma. And I talk to patients about this because I want them to understand how important it is for them to have a clean mouth. And sometimes they don't have that problem in their own health history, but getting them thinking about it, and so they're talking to their friends about it, really helps to educate them and get them aligned with periodontal disease is important, and it's important we take care of it. So you have your team look for that and look for ways to help their patients to be healthy. Now, you can focus on a couple different things here. I like to talk to patients when we first try and get practices working with periodontal disease. It can feel like a mountain they're climbing. So I recommend you start slow, that you choose out 1 or 2 patients each day, look at their probe depths, their x-rays, and who can you talk to about preventative periodontal treatment. Maybe you want to start out very slow and do irrigation, or you want to do a laser treatment. Just tell the patient, this area is not getting better. We need to do something that's more proactive to get you back to health. And then recommend the treatment. The patient can always say no. But it's what I want to encourage you to realize is that it's not about you. Sometimes we take that rejection personally, but sometimes the patient's just not ready yet. So take intraoral photos of the areas that need to have that treatment done, whether it's for a crown or a filling or for periodontal disease. Take pictures, help the patients understand, but encourage them to attempt at least once or twice every day to add treatment for a patient who stands in need of something more, because you want them to be healthy. You want them to get to health. So set small, focus goals. Maybe you want the assistant, if there's a patient coming in and they have uncompleted treatment and they're in for restorative treatment in one area but not another, have the assistant take an intraoral picture of the area that stands in need of treatment still, so that way they can show the patient. Sometimes the patient hasn't been shown. Talk to your hygiene department about recommending adjunct services, whether it's irrigation or laser treatment or maybe SRP in 1 to 3 pockets, but talk to them. What does preventative look like, and how can we keep a patient from getting to SRP? How can we get a patient back to healthy? And when you do this, it really helps your team to move forward. You see your numbers move forward because you're standing in a platform of health rather than numbers. It's amazing when this happens, when your team aligns. So focus on what you're learning, and if you have setback, come back to this and look at this once a week and say, how did we do this last week? Did we talk to patients or did we not? And keep track of how many people you're talking to, because each one you talk to, you're getting better at your verbiage, you're getting better at explaining, and the patients are understanding better. And when you continue practicing this, you're going to win. It takes time. Even a no is a win because you chose to educate and to teach your patients that you want to help them to get to better health. Thanks for joining me.